The role that I've written is, the character's name is Rose, and she's a woman who's in love with a priest. Her age is unimportant. The synopsis of the play is that Rose is in love with Father Larry, who is a priest in an experimental church and a favorite among the predominantly female congregation. When Rose speaks the dialogue, Father Larry has been falsely accused of misconduct and is being held in the newly designed private ecclesiastical penitentiary in Washington, D.C. Rose believes she has proof that the accusations are false, but withholds it. So she's not going to let him get out of prison because she wants him to stay there so the other ladies who also love Father Larry can't get him. He's an adorable priest. So this is the monologue. She asked me if I were going to Vespers. I said I'm not. Does she think I'm an Episcopalian? Is that wrong? There was a party that night. Charlotta was very busy with it. Her roommate, too. Turns out she had a mysterious room off the kitchen. She opened the door and surprised me. She asked me about Father Larry. What business was it of hers? I used any opportunity to talk about him, however. Him, was a young priest. Chance meeting. You can't be surprised. Not all priests are faggots, you know. I don't know how to get there. I'd seen him on several occasions. I was looking for him in a way. You could say that. One of the ones from the old house came with me when I went to Mass. The Arlesburg or Emmanuel, I couldn't remember which. Both were irrelevant. I was ardent, directed, going to church to meet him. There was some commotion along the way. I left them to deal with it. Father Larry's church was very up to date. No pews, but aisles of chairs. Some of the ladies were drinking cocktails in large glasses. They were laughing and craning their necks. They were talking during the liturgy. It was so jovial, like they were all sisters. Father saw me when he went to the gifts. He looked so in his vestments. His hair drooped in his eyes as he leaned over the chalice. He had priest hair like a priest. Thick black hair fell on his face as he mumbled his tangled sentences over the host. For Father Larry, the power was up there, going down, pulsating hair, no baldness unto death. I have seen my relatives in the coffin with hair blazing. Blazing hair where you had to stuff them down the drain and not all of them stayed. Father Larry's hair had their tenacity. He looked straight at me unafraid. He said, "How glad I am to see you here." "It isn't that unusual in a way," he said. "It isn't that unusual because I was waiting for you." His bright, broad smile hung in the lurch. So genuine, so loving. He was a priest. I threw dirty filth between us, but Father Larry killed it with sunshine. He was so happy it seemed, thrilled to the gills. For a moment he seemed ridiculous, but I stayed. I was going through with it. Why should I disobey? If a priest is beautiful, he's a beautiful priest. No getting around it. They are rare but convincing. He goes outside, I think, for me. He goes into the rectory with another priest. I stand outside. He may have dumped me. After Mass, I leave, get freaky at a party. There are 150 people in a 500 square foot apartment. We're there cheek to cheek. Some are smoking. Charlotte is passing out grapes. It's a tradition. He shows up, of course. Do you think I could tell you? I could not. Charlotte and her roommate asked for full details. They were up in their tenement, 6 floors up. They were planning a party. They said the last one was packed. Charlotte said she couldn't even pass out the grapes. Okay, so this is called, from a play called Why I Left Home. So it's, again, it's for an actress, so it's a female voice. The cops had been looking for me for a month. I heard it on the radio. No one can understand why I left home. I don't understand it myself. It was so simple. I thought I'd go get a cup of coffee next door to where I worked, but a bus stopped, so I got on it. I rode it for a while when it dawned on me that I was actually on the bus leaving. The question was, where was I leaving from? Of course I'd been depressed, wouldn't you be? I mean, considering I worked in a travel agency and never got a vacation myself. One time I tried to go to Puerto Vallarta, but about 3 days before I was supposed to go, I started feeling dizzy. Then it got worse. I started getting so dizzy I had to hug the buildings as I walked down the street. I couldn't even get up out of the chair and run to the toilet, which was also a problem. I had to stand and wait a very long time because I was seeing stars. That was the end of it. The doctor said I should cancel, so I did. I never got the deposit back, which still bugs me considering I'm allegedly in the industry. It's hard to believe it's been a month already. It's been fun, really a trip, in both senses. The first night I didn't have any money, so I decided to turn a trick to make some cash to get a motel. I didn't know what I was going to do in that damn motel. It sounded kind of boring, but that's what people do, I guess. Of course, I needed cash because I couldn't use my credit cards because that would make it extremely obvious where I was. I saw this guy sitting at the bus stop, a foreign guy. He looked at me in that glary sort of way and seemed like the typical horny type of foreigner. So I asked him, hey, you want to fuck me? And he said, okay, how much? I said, $50. He said, no way. I said, okay, 35. He said, 20. I said, look, did you want to fuck me or not? Because there's like a million horny foreigners in this world. Then he said, okay. We went down the alley. First, I kissed him with a mouth wide open. I heard whores never do that, which I doubt. Oh, he loved that. I could have gotten 100 after that. He started mumbling some mumbo jumbo that could have been easily I love you. Then I fucked him, which was sort of ordinary, and then he paid me. Man, that was the best money I ever got. It felt so cool, like the world was really so simple and just with a wide open mouth ready to chomp me up. First thing I thought was, I should buy some drugs. I wanted to get some OxyContin because I heard that was the strongest, freakiest new drug, and I was in the mood to do something I knew was completely with it and trendy. I saw an old lady who looked about ready to keel over, and I thought, she has some serious disease and it looks painful. I said to her, wow, you really look sick. Are you in an incredible amount of pain? She nearly sprang out of her wheelchair. Yes, she said, hands outstretched. I'm in pain and my life is miserable, she said. I was like, really? Do you have any prescriptions? Do you have any OxyContin? And she said she did, but I would have to go over to her place to get it. That sounded sort of sketchy, like more effort than I wanted to exert, but I went. You would have seen her place. It was no exaggeration, a fucking palace. I mean huge, with like 3,300,000 rooms, and at least 20 Pekingese dogs charging all over with maids chasing after them to pick up their turds, I guess. Oh, and she had Oxy, and she had everything else you can think of. She kept it all packed into this creepy little handbag she had stashed into the sink in one of the bazillion bathrooms. The Oxy got us both pretty relaxed and friendly, and after a while she sort of went all slack in the wheelchair, and I figured she could use some privacy. I decided I needed to make some plans for the evening. I picked up the house phone and a gardener or somebody answered. I asked if she knew where I could go to see, I asked him if he knew where I could go to see some cockfighting. The guy was also debauching, but titillated at the same time. He told me where to go and said to act cool and all that. The cockfights weren't until midnight, so I thought in the meanwhile I'd go to open night at a comedy club. I always thought I could be a good foul-mouthed comic because I like to freak people out by swearing. Like if a person calls someone trying to sell me phone service, I like to give a normal answer but use really lewd language. Most of the acts were real stinkers. I was getting more laughs by fake snoring in the audience. I guess it was all the drinks plus the oxy, but I was feeling bold and jumped on stage. I thought I'd make fun of myself because I'm always so mopey and feeling sorry for myself. I sang Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, but then I switched it for the finale. I took a leap right on stage. It was hysterical. At the fight, my bird looked pretty good, and everyone was going crazy over it. He was slashing the other bird like a maniac. Blood was gushing out of him. It was so gruesome. Everyone was shouting so loud that the birds were crowing even louder. I didn't win that much because I could only bet $60 I got when I stole a check off one of the tables at the comedy club. Still, it was enough to buy a case of wine coolers, which I passed out to the teenagers outside the convenience store, and enough to buy a couple of sessions at the artillery range, where I met 2 off-duty police officers. Of course, that was kind of sweaty since I didn't want to get busted the first night out, and I was certain my kids' school had already sounded the alarm. But they turned out to be totally cool and not too anxious to discuss their own details. So when they flipped me the keys to the city councilman's house, I just grabbed them and said thanks. I tried to be cool there too and not nab any of the electronic or medical equipment that was stashed in unopened boxes in the garage. Because that's just how this trip has been. You know, you have to be cool. Thank you.